I think I already stated our goals, to update you on what we've done, to share ideas, to leave with actionable items. And if we need to have another meeting date, we will set that hopefully before we leave. Anyone who missed the thank you so much for your concern and compassion around this issue of sheltering our homeless during extreme winter weather. There are a few rules for this meeting. Please remain positive at all times. Do not demean any people, any agency, any group. We are here to be positive and create positive solutions and ideas. Please stay focused on emergency sheltering only. We are not talking about anything long term. This meeting today is only about helping save lives during extreme winter weather. Keep yourself muted, please. And if you have a comment, you can use the raise your hand feature if you have that, or you can put it in the chat and Mark will be helping monitor the chat. Please be respectful of every individual and idea on this call. As we get toward the end and we're coming up with action items, please only commit to an action item if you are certain you will be able to carry it out. I know this is a caring group. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. And we all want to do all the things. So please only commit to helping if you know you have the bandwidth to be able to follow through. I'm going to try to keep this as short as we can, especially since we got a late start. And I need you to embrace the reality that we are not going to solve this in just this one meeting, and we probably will have to have much more conversation about this. This also gives us an opportunity to be educated and to educate our community. We want to be sure that everyone can hear and that everyone is heard. So that's why we're asking you to stay muted and just use the hand raising and the chat. So are there any questions at this point about anything I've just discussed? I'm not seeing any in the chat, so I'm going to move forward. For those of you who may be new to this issue, I just want you to know that many organizations, not just United Way, have been tackling this conundrum of how to help our homeless overnight for a very long time during terrible weather. There are many organizations that have been trying to address this. And I've been with United Way for 8.5 years now. And I know I started trying to work on this 7.5 years ago. And it's just not an easy thing for us to make happen. So there are a lot of organizations that are working on this. And long before we went to the city council, we have been trying to address this. Members of the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, other churches, many people, and I thank you for all that you have done thus far. That we were able to take a proposal to the city council is the farthest that we've gotten so far. And I want to thank Mayor Kinder for helping us get to that point. She registered for this call, but is not able to be on it, but is very interested in helping us figure out a solution. In fact, she called a meeting in February to start discussing this not long after she was in her new position. So the plan that we presented to the city council, if you missed it, is on our website, unitedwayofsemo.org, winter sheltering. So if you want to go back and look at that plan and become more familiar with it, that's where it is. But in short, United Way, the Salvation Army, Community Partnership, and First Call for Help, which are some of the organizations that have been talking about this since I came on board, went to the city council and presented a plan that discussed how we thought we might approach this by, in short, by putting individuals, males and females, in the Salvation Army gymnasium and putting families with children into hotels or people who are deemed to be harmful to themselves or others. And we asked the city council for $10,000 to help contribute to this. And I'm delighted to say that even though they said no, we've had other people in our community really step up. And obviously this call is an indication of that. We are still exploring how we can make this happen with the Salvation Army, but I think everyone should know, and I hope you will go tell everyone else, this is their busiest time of year. They are in the midst of their Red Kettle campaign. They just did a Thanksgiving meal. They're working on baskets and things, and they are a very small team, just like United Way is. So to be able to put this on them adds one more thing, one more plate for them to spin when they already have a lot of plates in the air. So they're doing what they can. And if we can come up with alternative solutions, that will help them, and it might help the people we are trying to serve. There are, if we do have overnight sheltering at the Salvation Army, there are guidelines that have to be followed there that are their corporate organizational rules. And I mentioned in some of my media interviews, and I want to thank our media who are on this call and for the support that you gave us trying to get the word out about this meeting. I mentioned that we're struggling. We still don't have all the volunteers that we need to be able to open the Salvation Army. And I want to be clear on that. We had 30 people take a training for volunteers at the Salvation Army almost a year ago. Those people can still come volunteer, and any member of the community can come volunteer for up to 3 nights without having to have a specific Salvation Army training if we use their facility. But we do have to have at least 4 people assigned to roles that do have to have this 4-hour virtual training that some of us took just before Thanksgiving. So those are roles that include a shelter manager, a safety manager, someone who's trained in mental health support, because, you know, the people that we're serving are dealing with a lot. And then we need someone overseeing food to make sure that everybody gets a meal in the evening and a meal in the morning. So those roles have to be filled in every shift. And there has to be one shelter manager who has had that 4-hour Salvation Army training on each shift. So that's what I meant when I said we are not prepared yet with the volunteers required to be able to open the Salvation Army. So are there any questions about anything I've just said or where we are at this point? I am looking at the chat. Mark is answering the phone with people who I think are still having trouble getting on. And I don't see any messages right now. I'm looking for raised hands. Cynthia, I see that you have a raised hand. Please, and I see more raised hands now. Please unmute yourself, Cynthia, and let us know what your question is.
Am I unmuted? I'm trying.
You are.
There we go. So that, yes, you mentioned that the preliminary training was attended by a lot of people, but they can't supervise or fill any of these required roles without the additional 4-hour training. When's that going to be offered again?
Great question.
Because
that
we
and
weren't
now
even informed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was there more? I'm sorry. I stepped on you.
No, fine.
Is that okay? They are planning on offering another training, but this is sent down by their corporate headquarters as to when the trainer can provide the training. And all Salvation Armies, not just the one here in Cape Girardeau or in other areas nearby us, they are all in the midst of a Red Kettle campaign right now. So they can't do that training anytime soon. It probably will not be until after Christmas, and then it will be contingent on when their trainer is able to provide it. But rest assured, we will spread that word as soon as we can.
I just
who else has a hand up? Let's see. Linda?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. With the interest that's been raised in the issue, since the city council vote, is there any ability to go back to the city council and ask again?
I have no idea. I don't know what the city council's policy is, but that's something we'll try to find out and we are putting this recording on our website, and we will try to address any questions there on the webpage that we've set up for winter sheltering. Again, shout out to Sierra Schlee, who is our marketing coordinator, who's been really helpful with all of this. So we'll try to address that on that page, and any other questions that I can't answer right now.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And then Becky Simfer, I thought you had a hand up, but it looks like maybe someone else asked your question. So put your hand down if we've answered your question. Mackenzie, did you have a question?
Yes, this might be a little unrelated. I cannot access the chat for some reason.
Ah, okay. But you can raise your hand, so we can at least see you if you want to ask a question.
Okay.
We've had a couple of people who said that, and I guess it's because you don't have that Teams chat that you were telling me.
Mhm.
I've been informed that if you logged in as a guest, you don't have access to the chat.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
And I am not able to give you that access either. It doesn't appear. So
That is okay.
Okay. Who else? Christy Booth, what is your question, please?
Hi, thank you for doing this. I was just wondering if there are any like churches or other areas that would be able to be used.
That
or
is what we're going to
even
get to next. I just wanted to
Okay.
see first if anybody has any questions about where we are up to this point and anything I've just said.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That is the next thing we're doing though. Okay, I still see some hands up. So Linda, do you have, and I can't see your whole name. I'm sorry. I'm not able to say.
That's okay. Linda Gastrich, I'm at Grace United Methodist Church. I can't lower my hand. I don't have access to it as a guest.
Okay,
So
allow me to lower your hand.
thank
All
you.
right, and Cynthia, do you still have a question? I'm going to assume no and lower your hand for you too. Okay, that's so weird that you can raise it but can't lower it. All right, so the next thing that we wanted to do is explore other ideas. And someone had said, are there some churches? I know that I personally have approached some churches, and the response that I've received from them has to do with concerns about liability, concerns about safety and training, and some of them actually have programs there that they fear might interfere with having to suddenly house people, as weather comes in. My question was, but well, are you still going to be having those programs when it's snowing outside? So I don't know if we have, Linda, maybe I'm not asking you to address this on behalf of Grace, but if you could address it just from a church perspective, or if there's someone, I know Pastor Bob, you're on here. If you're able to address this from a church perspective, you might have an opportunity to educate us.
Yeah, I'll jump in and then Bob,
Okay.
if you want to go next. Basically, Grace United Methodist Church has the space where it's conceivable that we could offer a shelter. However, the United Methodist Church does require training when we interact with people who are vulnerable, whether they're children or adults who are vulnerable, and so that's going to make it difficult. And not impossible, but difficult. And then I don't have the volunteer base at Grace to do it. Space is a possibility, but it's not, the volunteer base is just not there to make that happen. We have been we've got a thing called the Granting Grace Foundation at our church. They have been working through the police department for the past year to provide hotels overnight. Basically saving people a step. They don't have to come to the church, and the police are able to get them right over to a hotel. That fund though is down to a couple of $100s. And we don't have any plans for significant fundraising until February. But it has
Okay.
worked. It has worked very well. The police department has been happy with being able to manage it that way.
Great. And I should add too that one church was very willing to do this, but they're out on Perryville Road. And so getting people there was a challenge. They even opened their doors last winter, I think, and nobody could get there. And under normal circumstances, I know that there are volunteers already, certainly with street level, who are offering transportation. CTA offers transportation, but during winter weather, that makes it much more challenging.
Right.
Pastor Bob, did you have something you wanted to share on this? Do I have to unmute you, or can you unmute yourself? I'm looking. I'm not getting the option to unmute you.
Click on your microphone at the top.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Okay, so last year we registered, we're Restoration Community Church. I'm a senior pastor there. We registered with State of Missouri as a warming center. So when I was in Arizona and also San Diego pastoring, we became a rapid response report through the Red Cross. So I understand there's a lot of conditions, and a couple of them is in the winter we can't take any animals. That always seems to be problematic for some. And then of course, when we bring them in, we have a gymnasium, we have a room called the gathering room. The sanctuary is set up so that I can just take all the chairs and put them aside. So, but what it comes down to be able to do this right, men with men, women with women. Of course, one of the concerns is those that can't be around children, maybe some restraining orders. And normally with the Red Cross, when you're a rapid response, they'll bring in a team or an officer. That would be something that we would look at. So, okay, how do we manage this well? We have a full-blown kitchen. As long as we have electric, we would have stock with hot dogs and whatever we need to do to be able to take care of people. But we don't have any cots. People would have to bring blankets. So we could take them, but that's kind of the conditions, because we really don't, when I designed the building, I didn't design it for a bunch of storage, but we do have a gymnasium and stuff we can put people in.
And you're in Scott City, right?
In Scott City, we're the brand new church across from the baseball fields.
Okay. And I've been in your church. It's beautiful. Again, though,
Oh.
I fear transportation might be an issue,
Yeah.
getting people to that facility. Also, are there, let's see, I do not see any hands up at this point. One person does. Where are you? There. Okay, Christy Booth. Yes.
I was just wondering, have you guys thought about the Osage Center or the Shawnee Center? Like, I know the Shawnee Center does not get used as much as the Osage Center, and they have a huge gymnasium there.
They certainly do. You are not the first person to suggest that. Someone else emailed that suggestion to us. And again, that's asking for help from the city. They normally charge rental for those facilities. So one of my goals following this meeting is to take anything that concerns the city, like the question that's already been asked about what's their policy on asking again, or this to them and see what they are willing to give us. And that might be something like opening that facility. I don't think that's something the city council has to vote on. So it might be a different scenario for us. So thank you for that. Let's see, I see some more hands. Lisa G. You unmute yourself. Okay, hello.
Can you hear me? Hello. My name's Lisa Green, and Christy, I think that is a wonderful idea about the Shawnee Rec Center. That should is that part of the taxes that we pay on the parks and recs? I mean, is that something? I mean, that seems like a wonderful idea right there. And also, too, I would like to make a suggestion. I took a Citizens Academy class, and we took a tour of the Cape Girardeau City Police Station, and they have a meeting room that's free for the community to use at any time. So homeless people are considered community, right? They're part of our community. So why can't they use that community room when it gets cold and wouldn't have to worry about staffing because it's in the police department. There are police there.
Mhm.
And another thing, there's different meeting rooms in that police station and they're not being used either. And I'm sure the forecast can see when the cold winter comes and they can reserve that community room for the homeless people there.
Okay, thank you.
And that's
That is,
part of the, I'm sorry, that's part of the Public Safety Trust Fund in 2014. That's how the police department was built. So that would be considered a public safety for the homeless people. That is public safety. So I don't see where anybody should have a problem with it, with them
okay,
using that.
thank you. That I'm
money.
adding that to my list of things to ask about. I do know from when we have scheduled a meeting in that very room that it's with the understanding we can use it as long as something doesn't come up that the police department needs it for. So there is always that qualifier. Cynthia,
Well,
I see that you have, I'm
Well,
sorry.
the qualifier would be the homeless people need safety. So that should
Right.
be able to trump, quotation marks, trump anything that may come up is homeless people. That's community.
Understood. Cynthia, you have your hand up again. What is your question? I don't know if you're muted, but we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. The water park has a shower house. The whole water park is not even used in the autumn and winter. And so whatever hesitations Parks has about letting people use the Osage Center might be obviated by having them, over a few hundred yards.
Okay, thanks. I've added it to my list. Also, someone asked in the chat, and Reverend Linda, I think this is for you, asking more information about the training that your church and probably several other churches require. I've taken a church training. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's safe something. So if you can jump in and explain that, Linda, that'd be helpful.
Sure, it's a program called Safe Gatherings, and it's an online program. It takes a few hours to complete. You need to have references who can verify who you are and that you are safe to be around people who are vulnerable. Usually a pastor is someone who can do that. I will say I'm not 100% sure about its availability to people outside the United Methodist system. I would assume that it is.
Oh, okay.
And then the cost is around $50 per person to go through that training.
Wow, okay. Thank you. Pastor Bob, I see your hand is up again.
Yeah, I'm just curious. So when we talk about buildings and the city, and what I'm asking is, okay, so if we have, just say if there's 100 volunteers out there, is there something in place that says, okay, we got a building, and then that would go to work and say, okay, now we need to fill in the blanks. So who's going to be there, whatnot? Because I'm sure the city's going to, I mean, the liability is going to be, okay, who's going to do all this? Who's going to take care of it?
Right.
And
Right.
and are they qualified? Are they trained? And so that's what I was thinking about this workforce, getting that in place before. I'm assuming the snow's going to be coming soon.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we are working on too. At UnitedWayofSemo.org, we have a volunteer page, and so it's full of all of our partner network, the volunteer opportunities. So we're working on a page that is specific to this, but we needed to get a better understanding of, and I'll ask this right after we address Becky's question. But volunteers is the next thing I thought that we might discuss. And so someone remind me, I want to talk about what hour shift breakdowns you think we should have. But first, I'm going to go to Becky.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I just had a quick question about the training. I know that the woman who just spoke said that she wasn't sure if the training she was referencing was available outside to folks outside of the Methodist system. Are there any sort of like training equivalencies or anything? So for instance, for myself, I'm interested in volunteering at the Warming Center. So having worked in social services for so many years, I'm just wondering if there's any sort of equivalencies there.
That to me sounds like it would be a great action item for someone to take on before our next meeting. So you know how that goes, Becky, when you bring up an idea. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying you have to. But that is going to be, I think, one of our action items.
Cool.
So yeah. So also speaking of the volunteers, if we are moving on to volunteers now, the Salvation Army recommends that it be broken into 12-hour shifts simply because you only need 2 shelter managers, right? But I think asking someone to come serve 12 hours may be asking too much. So I would like to hear your thoughts. Let's do, I don't know how to do this logically since not everybody has it, but if you think a 12-hour shift is not asking too much, raise your hand. Okay, so 3 people have responded to that. And I know a couple of you can't raise your, oh no, you can't use the chat, but you can raise your hands. Okay. If you think 6-hour shifts would be better. Oh, here comes the 4th one. Okay. Nope. Okay. 3 still. All right. If you think 6-hour shifts would be better, please raise your hand now. I'm trying to lower the hands of the people who, okay then. 6-hour shifts is kind of what I was thinking too. So we have an overwhelming majority there. All right. So if somebody, Sierra, if you can help me lower all those hands, if you're not able to lower your own hand, what are some other things that are coming to mind? I will tell you, actually, there's something else I wanted to explain. The Salvation Army does have cots. The American Red Cross was kind enough to give me some blankets. So I do have 30 at least blankets from them. I haven't counted them all. They would need to be washed and reused and stored, not given to people to take with them. Also, what we have been trying to do, and this is something that the 4 organizations that presented to the city council, so United Way, First Call for Help, Community Partnership, and the Salvation Army, we like the idea of asking people to go through community partnership, ideally, especially at this point in time, because they try to help give other resources to people. And, you know, that's what United Way tries to do. We try to meet the immediate need, but then address what is creating that need. And by sending people to community partnership where they are equipped, they have the staff, they have the training, they have resources to help homeless people. That is what we are trying to do. And what we can do now, I know we've had a cold snap already. We know more will be coming. If we don't have something, you know, in the past, we sent people to hotel rooms, but we would like to funnel them through CPCMO first, because then it might be first someone they've already worked with and they already know what they need and have an idea of how to help them. But if it's not someone they've worked with before, then they need to have these wraparound services that are there to support them. So that's what we have done and will do with some of our funds. CPCMO submits us a hotel receipt after they have put people into hotel rooms, and then we reimburse them. So I just wanted to have everyone understand how that process is working. And I see I have some hands. So Sierra, what is your question, please?
Thank you, Elizabeth. I was just wondering if a community member would like to donate items such as blankets to assist with this service, who would we make that donation to?
Well, I know that Street Level takes donations and has some space. So I am going, Cynthia, are you able to, we don't have the storage for that, and we don't have the direct contact that some of these other organizations have. So these would be blankets that would be given away or would need to be reused.
Either.
Okay. I'm gonna let Cynthia address that, and I'm looking to see who else is on this call from CPCMO. If somebody, Calvin is, okay, great. So Calvin, you haven't been on in a while and at all, and I think I'm speaking for you, so I don't want to do that. If you want to unmute yourself and respond to this and anything else I've said, that'd be great.
Okay, yes. In regards specifically to the taking the donations, for those that do not or may not know, we operate what's called the Neighbor Hub, which is a daytime warming / cooling shelter here, which does provide some reprieve during any time of year, from the hours of 9:00 a.m. until 3:00 p.m. With that being said, we are always very responsive and open to taking donations for whatever need, as long as it's being directed toward the population that we specifically are talking about here, because those are obviously our most vulnerable folks that we're talking about. And we do have a huge basement. It does have a lot of things in it, but we're always and will always be open to making space whenever, and I cannot stress that enough, whenever anyone is willing to make any kind of donation, whether it be food, whether it be clothing, whether it be blankets, whether it be whatever, and whether it be money, which we obviously need to do this. So if that answers your question. Yeah.
Okay, so for clarity, community partnership will be having to take donations. And Cynthia, I'm assuming you guys would too.
Yes, certainly. We don't have the means of keeping them kind of like sanitary because we hand things out very quickly. Our flow through is very rapid. So we wouldn't be able to store things for the cots and stuff without making special arrangements, which we could make. But just at this point, donations coming in, they would immediately go out.
Great, thank you. Lisa G, what is your comment or question?
I have a comment about volunteering. Can we think outside the box? Maybe like people that is in trouble for like they have to pay a fine and they can't afford a fine, so they put on community service. Is it something that they could maybe get trained and I don't know, be willing to help and get their community hours done by helping the community that way, as getting trained in the Red Cross or the United Way or whatever? It doesn't even have to be a nonprofit. Can it be like a homeless, helping people with homeless without being a nonprofit organization? Can they start like a class to help people help themselves with their community service, with their fines, and helping others?
Great idea. My understanding is that there are certain organizations that work with people who need community service. And so my guess would be that an organization on this call that might want, I know that Community Partnership has people who work with them who need community service. I don't know that that would be practical for the emergency sheltering, simply because we never know when that's going to happen. And usually people have a certain period of time that they have to get their community service in. But I'm going to let that hang there for now. And if anybody else has something they want to contribute to that, raise your hand. But I'm going to move on now to Reverend Linda again.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I don't mean to be occupying the whole conversation. It seems to me like we're at a spot where there's a lot more community awareness about the problem and the challenge of providing for the homeless community, the size of the homeless community, all those things. And I know money can't fix everything, but I am wondering about maybe launching some sort of a shared fundraising campaign to fill the gap of the $10,000 that the city wasn't able to provide. Our experience with working with the police department and providing hotel rooms has worked great. And I know we're talking about going through this community partnership, which is probably much better. So I would just endorse being able to funnel people into hotels on these cold nights. I don't think we're going to be able to rally to get enough volunteers and space and training done as quickly as we might like to fix the problem hands-on. So
we have it for 7.5 years that I know of. So yeah, I think you're probably right. And fundraising is actually on my list of topics to discuss. So I will now, I know Pastor Bob, you had your hand up. Did you take it down? Okay.
Yeah, no, somebody took it down, but my question is, and this may not be the time, and I'm sure this may be on everybody's mind, the long-term goal. I've been to the Dream Centers in LA, Phoenix, and it is a well-oiled machine, but it took a lot of vision between the city, local organizations, churches, and nonprofits. Is that on the table somewhere in here? Because I see a lot of
this call, not in this call today, but
right.
We all know, everybody on this call knows that that has to happen. We have to come up with a solution that's beyond temporary overnight sheltering. And I am hoping that the people on this call, if we can get this first life-saving immediate issue solved as we head into December, that will lead to a coalition or a force or whatever we want to call a group that really is going to research what's working in other areas, look at how municipalities in other areas are involved and supportive, and see what we can bring back here. So that is, I think, something that everybody on this call probably would like to see happen. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie White.
Hi, everyone. So I have to get back to work here shortly, so I just wanted to ask a couple of questions before I do. One of them does pertain to volunteers. Someone mentioned to me that, so let's assume this is going to happen at the Red Cross, that they actually, the Salvation Army, sorry. So they actually said that they filled out an application months ago and no one ever got back to them. So if we have people that are wanting to volunteer, it's almost like, do we need a volunteer that can field volunteers? You know, I would hate there to be people that are wanting to help, but aren't able to because the Salvation Army is so overwhelmed that they don't actually even have anyone to field these applications and people that are willing to help. And then my other question was, there was a company that reached out to me that was wanting my opinion. They are wanting to make a large contribution. They always do it every year for Christmas. And what they were wondering is, they know that this campaign is going with the United Way, but they also understand that currently right now there is not a shelter. They know that right now it is cold outside and right now people need help. And right now, Street Level, for example, is putting people in hotel rooms. Where can their funds go that would best fit people right now? And what happens to the funds what happens to the United Way's funds if we cannot get something going soon, basically is the question.
Well, our funds can stay there for emergency sheltering. Once a donor designates how they want their money to be invested, that's what we do with it. And if we don't use it all, much to our operations managers and accountants' consternation, those funds carry over into the next year. So that's what we do. But we also could apply those funds to anything long-term that the group might figure out. And I hope I've answered your question. I know we have some other people with hands up, and I know we have people who need to get off the call, especially since we started late. So I'd like to go ahead and move on to fundraising real quickly, because we have people who reached out specifically to help raise funds. One of them's in this room. So do you want to speak up on what your thoughts were on that? No. Okay. Do we have some other folks who want to share ideas on fundraising? We would always love help with raising money for anything, believe me. So Amanda, who was a guest.
Yes, I have been speaking with a couple of venues in town, specifically venues like Scout Hall, on doing a large community event. Their main concerns are, pretty much what any venue would be, which is the safety, the legalities of everything, all of those kind of details. But I have had several venues that are interested. So if there's anything on the United Way's end that we need to let them know before hosting an event, that's all I would need to know. But I did want to mention that several are interested.
And what type of event did you have in mind?
There's a couple of different ideas that have been thrown around with some of the larger venues that could hold a few more people. It would probably be some sort of like dance party, concert, something along that lines, where it would just be a lot of people getting together in the name of fundraising, and then also just enjoying either some music or some sort of festivity. But we definitely want to make the focus community and the fundraising.
Great. And we, 2/3 of the United Way staff are sitting in this office right now. So we rely heavily on volunteers when we have events. And that's part of the reason we have very few fundraising events. We have a big golf tournament every year, and then we have one-off kind of things, a raffle and things like that. For those who may never have planned an event, it requires an extreme amount of time and human resources. So we would maybe have an event committee come off of this that would want to help with fundraising. I am going to call on Dennis Rigdon now. I know you've had your hand up a while. I'm sorry for the delay.
Well, involved in the whole thing is the city. We used to have a housing director, and that position is incorporated into the city manager. The city manager has accolades for developing community programs in various cities that he's led. We've got to get him involved and behind this, because he oversees housing in the city of Cape Girardeau. He needs to be part of it. He could creatively solve it. He could present it to the council and get their approval. We don't involve him, we're not going to go anywhere.
We certainly need the support of our city leaders for moving forward with anything more permanent, that's for certain. Who else? Cynthia, what is it you had to share?
Oh, well, just, yes, we take people for community service, and we are very interested in the power of the churches to unite to get behind solutions to homelessness. And we now have a couple people who are initiating, they hope, that kind of project. And if you want to get in touch with me, I can maybe connect anyone who's interested in that. Something that's undergoing, we could fuse onto it, or if we're farther ahead, come to join us, whatever.
I want to make sure I understood, Cynthia. Are you saying that there are churches who are working on a permanent homelessness solution?
I'm saying there are people in congregations in 3 different churches who are interested in what's been called the room at the inn model, where churches take turns acting as severe weather shelters so that no church ever has to take on the full burden. And this is all exploratory right now. There's another model that I can't remember the name of. And I'm not in charge of that. So anyone who would like to meet with them and explore ways that churches could join forces, I think getting the churches behind this is really going to be key.
I agree. We do have a ministerial alliance
Um,
in the community, and I know they have made attempts to combine forces on things. And I don't know how effective that has been, but yeah, getting
I
our, we
understand
know
that they're
churches are
involved.
doing things individually, right? Pastor Bob, something else to share?
Yeah, I was just going to ask a couple things. One was, are we going to be able to get some kind of a contact sheet so we can stay in touch with each other? Like I would be able to call Cynthia, or because I don't have any contacts outside of
You know what?
whatever I
That's
was
a
given.
great question. I will make that voluntary, and we'll
Okay.
create a Google sheet that we will send to everyone who's on this call. We'll send that link, and you will have the option of adding your information if you want to share your contact information.
Great. And the second, I was talking about events when we were in Mesa and working with the homeless, and I was in San Diego. I thought it was important to get especially the high schoolers, the younger generations, to be able to get involved. And they had some incredible ideas. And so we created a ministry called Amplify, so these kids have a voice in our communities. And most people will be surprised. These high schoolers, they got their pulse on what's happening. We know there's high school kids that are living homeless and with families and cars. So what we did is a bowl-a-thon, and that was a huge event. And the kids had fun. The whole thing was bowl against the cops, bowl against the older people in the church. But it really did raise a few $1,000s, and that would pay for a lot of hotel rooms. And it's having fun at the same time, and it's getting the younger generation involved. And I think that's really important. Not just art, but if we're going to pass this on. It's going to take the next generation to be involved in this as
It
well.
absolutely is. Yes.
Thank you.
Great point. Great point. Okay, so it's about time for us to wrap up. I know there are still 2 hands up. If you can just share real quickly, Christy.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I was a part of the People's Shelter whenever they started, and it was literally a church of less than 50 people. And they opened up their pews, and they had a warming center every night that it dropped below freezing, or I think it was like 40 degrees. But yeah, it can be done. It can really be done.
Oh, there are so
And
many other
people
cities that are
want
doing
to
this.
be involved.
Yes, yes. Okay, Lisa, last, I see that your hand is up. Lastly and quickly, what do you have to share? Are you muted?
Okay, hello, sorry. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yep, we can.
Okay, I just have a quick question. Whenever you were saying that you find like motels and hotels for homeless people, does the owners of those hotels and motels, do they ever be willing to let them stay in there for free, or do they always charge for these people?
They charge, but there's one in particular that works really well in helping this community, and they give a discount. I mean, they still have the expense, of personnel and staff and cleaning the rooms and all of that, but they
I
do
should
give
hope,
a
I
discount.
should hope they do a
Right.
lot of discounts, I should
Okay.
hope that.
So we clearly, have more things that we need to discuss. We have left with some action items. So like I said, I'm going to create a Google sheet, and I'm going to include on that an area that you might be interested in helping with. So if it's event planning, some other type of fundraising, volunteering, to get a training. I'll just put some of these different categories on here that we've thought about. If you see that I need to add some other column or a different category, everyone will be able to edit this sheet so that you can add your information. So make sure when you do that, you don't accidentally delete somebody else's, because it's instant with Google. Are there any closing thoughts, anything you all think that I need to be aware of? Just to clarify too, moving forward, we are for now continuing to hotel people. We ask that everyone on this call encourage them to go to CPCMO first so that they can get the additional services that they need. And we will continue to explore other emergency shelter solutions, fundraising ideas, what people are doing in other communities, and we will use the same group to look at possible long-term solutions and resources. Did I leave out anything? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate the time that you have spent with us today, and we are very grateful for all this great support and compassion that the rejection from the city council has created. So there is always a silver lining, and certainly this is it. So feel free to email me with any additional ideas that you didn't get to share or any questions. And do you all feel like we need to have a follow-up meeting? It's hard, I know, this close to Christmas. What I might do is just, we have your emails. That's why we created registration. If it looks like something's coming up really quickly that I feel like this group needs to weigh in on, is it all right with you if I just kind of send out an emergency email and let you all know, hey, we need to address this real quickly? And otherwise, we'll try to convene again after the holidays. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you to our media who are on. I look forward to seeing the recap that you prepare for this. And I wish everyone blessed holidays, and thank you all so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.